What's an example where you had a rejection and it was hard to swallow?
My mother hasn't accepted my pregnancy. And
Oh
that's
my
been
goodness, I'm
really, really
sorry.
tough. When all of this started, like I couldn't do the stillness. All that stuff that I was going through was just too much for me
Yeah,
to have silence. I
yeah,
needed some type of hand holding. And, Slipknot and Manson just happened to be it.
yeah. I love that.
We're all human.
Yeah,
We're capable of the best and the worst of the worst.
yeah.
And that's why we can't demonize or judge others.
Your process for staying in your authenticity is seeing rejection as redirection.
Absolutely. It is. And it's hard. It still hurts. I saw my mother as very emotional and out of control. And I saw my father's stoicism as strength. And any
Mm.
emotion I felt, I wanted it to be anger because I thought that that was more powerful.
Without talking about what you do or what you have. Who is Tiffany?
Oh, I like that. Who are you as a person? I am someone that really cares about authentic connection and authentic
Mm.
communication. And that manifests itself in different ways. But at the core, it's about the connection we have with others. And I like to think that I really lean into that and foster that trust with the other person to be able to be their authentic selves and share that with me. So that's me.
Oh, I love it. So I think it's pretty obvious why you're on this show to talk about authenticity. It's very well aligned. I'm not surprised from what I know about you that you value that.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. I value that too. Since you're saying that, you're somebody who values authentic connection, what does that look like for you? And the counterpoint of it, what does inauthentic connection look like for you?
I think that we have this image a lot because of social media of this is what an ideal life is, and it's the perfection of things. And people think that that's what others want to see. But I think the authentic part is being that vulnerable self and seeing the chaos, seeing the messiness, because that's real. Yeah, things aren't picture perfect, but do you really want them to be? That's boring. And
Yeah.
so, talking about the messiness of life, talking about the real issues, the things that keep us up at 2 a.m. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's scary, but at the same time, that's how we really connect and feel not so alone in this world.
It's that vulnerable, messy
Yeah.
self that gets presented. And when you're connecting with somebody and you're sensing that that's not there,
They're just trying to
that,
polish it. That's, I think, the inauthentic part of like
mhm.
just getting that um, one of the ways I say it is like when you're making introductions to people and email versus like LinkedIn or something like that.
Yeah,
And I say with email because it's this tailored paragraph of what you want the other person to see
yeah,
versus maybe LinkedIn because you're seeing the connections that everybody has, what you're commenting on, what you're posting on. It's a
hmm,
little bit more realness versus just the tailored part that you
yeah.
think other people are going to resonate with, but they don't always. I mean, it's not the whole of who you are, and it's sad that you feel that that's who you have to be to fit into a box for other people when I want to see your messiness. I want to see who you are when no one's looking. And whether that's personally, professionally, all the things. So
Yeah. I'm curious, how did this come about? Like, has it always been this way for Tiffany that Tiffany's like, if you're not real, you're not my people, right? Has it always been that way?
in a more or less, I would say, I think it's like I just think about the friend groups I've had throughout my life
Hmm.
and the typical popular kids and everything. Like there was just something about that I don't know. I mean, if you're an outcast, if you are just rejected by society, if nobody understands you, like
Hmm.
that's my people. Like
Yep.
even in school, like the teachers that everybody hated. like them and I got along. I loved them.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's that realness of you're not trying to put on this facade, so that you get teacher of the year or whatever. Like your grumpy old self. And I appreciate that. Thank you for being
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think yes, it
Yeah.
has always been there.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned school because school's like a tough place to be authentic, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I was just having this conversation with somebody. I learned about this unschooling now that I'm going to
Mm,
become a mom. Like I always
mhm,
knew that I wanted to homeschool, even when I didn't want children. I was like, homeschooling is just, it makes more sense than the institution of compulsory school.
mhm,
And I learned about unschooling and the problems specifically from I believe it was John Taylor Gatto spoke about how he was a teacher for 30 years, won all these awards, and then was like, listen, this is the problem with school, problem with
mm,
education. It perpetuates this uniformity, this you have to be
mhm.
dependent on the approval of the whoever's in charge for your grades, for your
Mhm.
self-esteem, for your ability to go to the freaking
Yep.
bathroom, like
Yeah.
all these things, and it just
Yep.
completely breaks you down. It breaks down your curiosity and who you are as
Yep.
a person.
Yeah.
And so it's just having these types of real
Wow.
conversations about something
Yeah.
so fundamental like
Yeah.
education.
I'm glad you're bringing this up. A lot of people that I talk to, they struggle with finding their authentic selves because they're having to, it's not a process of adding, right? It's a process of subtracting. Like
Mhm.
what's getting in the way? There's masks that you intentionally put on because you're like, oh, you know, I'm I'm at work. I'm not going to put on the same mask I put on, in the bedroom, right? It's going to be a
Right.
completely different one. Boardroom, bedroom, different masks, right?
Yes,
But
exactly.
like, yeah, that's from your website, from boardroom, yeah, yeah, boardroom to bedroom. But but like but a lot of that is unconditioning from school. Like school puts that and says like it's not you don't like get to pick the mask and decide when to put it on. It's almost like in school they like force one onto you. And to your point, it's when I said it's hard to be authentic at school, I was thinking about because of the other kids. I didn't think about because
The
of the whole
institution.
administration, the institution.
Mhm.
Yeah. Could you speak more to that?
You're right about the peers, but again, you're
Mhm.
still being stuck into a box. The whole point is for you to be a good employee, a good little soldier, a good little follower, to
Mhm.
fit into what society says this is how you're supposed to be for a strong, functional society. But what
Mhm.
if we turn that on its head? I mean, because clearly what we've been doing hasn't been working. And the school structure in the US specifically has only been like this for, I want to say it was 1860s or so, since the 1860s. Like it hasn't always
Mhm.
existed like that,
Yeah.
and it's not something that is required to be smart. Like it's
Mhm.
who's intelligent, who's not, what is intelligence, all of these things. When we put this focus on, education, and then competing against one another at little ages, when again, what are we actually competing for? And so, if we're not fitting in with our peers, this again goes back to the whole idea of the culture in terms of
Mhm.
if you are not fitting in with a community, you know 300, 400, 500 years ago, or back even farther, you're going to be ostracized. That means you're going to starve, you're going to perish. And
Mhm.
so this is deeply ingrained in us and just then followed out of this is the way things are supposed to be. End of story. And even the same thing with work when you're talking about, that mask that you're supposed to wear at work because you're supposed to appear a certain way. But what is professionalism? Professionalism to one person is not going to be professionalism to another because that can completely just push away, repel potential clients or what have you. In even if it is this polished, this is how it's supposed to look because you can see through the facade of what's being presented.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that some more because you own your own business and this whole idea of letting go of societal expectations. I'm guessing that has had a big part of your ability to be in business for yourself.
Yes. I I think it's I've always kind of pushed the system a bit.
Hmm.
And it's seeing through things of, well, why are you doing this just because this is how it's always been done? That's why you're failing at the moment and about to be acquired. And especially because I came from the charitable sector. I worked, almost 15 years in the charitable sector. And it's just repeating the patterns of things that, oh, this is how it's always been. But this is why it's a disaster, and you're doing more damage to the clients that you're trying to help, whether that's the environment, animals, people, whatever that looks like. But because you're just so stuck in your way of this is just how it's always been, you're not willing to actually move the needle in the way that you're supposed to actually be of help. And that's why I pivoted to work with those business owners that are actually wanting to have the conversation and doing things and pushing those boundaries and all of those types of issues in ways that, haven't always been considered okay. And for a variety of reasons, whether it's a taboo subject or just the way that they're doing their business, it's, you know, they're pushing those boundaries and they're okay with that. And yes, you're going to repel people, but you're going to attract the right people. It's not just about getting clients, it's about getting the right clients, the right
That's right.
donors.
That's
That
right.
is what's important.
I think what you're saying is that in order to build the right connections that you need for your business, you need to be authentic, which then means you need to understand what does being authentic mean for you. So how does Tiffany make sure that you're not backsliding into, inauthenticity? Like what are some things that you look for?
So when I have this conversation with women, they typically get it. With men, they don't. So I'm going to try
Mhm.
to speak to both sides of this. Um, because men are just like, I don't know what you're talking about because that's not the way they process and think. With women, it's we just listen to our intuition. We just trust our gut. And yes, and it's not always so straightforward because especially when you've had to mask for so long of this is just what I have to do, so you have to strip back all of that and find out who you really are and start trusting yourself in little ways that then amount to a bigger thing. Um, and you really see the shift. With men, though, I've had that conversation and they're like, I just don't know what you're talking about. I'm so much in my head. I'm so much, you know, in that go, 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 that hustle, that grind mode. That what do
Yeah.
you mean, my intuition? And really starting to explain what that means. Like, does this feel good to you? Does this not? I remember working with a client and there was a decision that was trying to be made, and he showed me this pros and cons list. And I'm like, so help me through this. And I was like, I mean, I know that it's written in English, but you just wrote it in Mandarin. Like, this means nothing to me because for me, when I'm looking at that, even if something looks horrible on paper, but it feels right,
Yeah.
I'm going to do what feels right. And I know that that's
Hmm.
the opposite a lot of the
Yeah.
time for men, but starting to see
Yeah.
in little ways of just trusting that I don't know, and then seeing how that has the shifts and then how you're conducting yourself in life in general.
Yeah. I think you're saying you would give different advice to different people. And so if
Yeah.
you tend to uh, you know, identify uh more with how most women think and feel and
Yes.
operate, then there's one way. And if you the way men feel and think generally, and there's no monoliths, right? Some men
Right.
might be on
I
one side and
appreciate
women,
you
yeah, yeah,
explaining that. Yes.
absolutely,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and some might be in the middle too. And but those are what I would like extract from that is that
Mm,
people who tend to be more in touch with their intuition and their emotions and their inner selves. Your advice is trust your gut. when you're not sure if you're being authentic or not. If your gut tells you this isn't authentic for me, trust it. And then for people who tend to be more in their head and more analytical,
Breaking it down so they understand what
mhm,
that actually feels like because it's
yeah,
there. It's
yeah,
just been pushed down so much.
yep. You got to actually, you have to then take them to the other side of like, okay, here's how you tap into your intuition, and and I think that's really important because in our society, we tend to put more value on analytical sort of intelligence and less value on intuition and emotions. But the thing is that we're feeling machines that happen to think. So
Yeah.
the core of who we are is about emotions. And so if we're going to become authentic, we need to tap into that. I think your guidance here would be helpful for the men, myself, and in the audience.
Yeah.
If you could break it down a little bit more about how do we get more connected with that side of ourselves so that we can find that sort of guidepost towards our own authenticity.
I think it starts with just being still and being quiet. And meditation looks very, very different. I mean, because I think, and I even hesitate to say that word because you have this image conjured up of what meditation is.
Hmm.
But just that stillness can be
Yeah.
something as simple as just sitting, like eyes open, just watching or listening to music. It's just going into yourself, whether you have music, whether you don't, whether you're asking a question to, God, source, universe, yourself, your higher self, anything, just being still and just listening to what comes up. And a lot of the times for me, especially when this was something I really, really struggled with a lot when I was in my teens, I tend to resonate a lot with men because I gravitated more towards the masculine side of things. I was very angry, very aggressive, violent, very much towards myself, a little bit to others. I'm ashamed to admit, but it is what it is. And so I really couldn't just sit in some lotus position listening to
Yeah.
classical music and
Uh,
om.
just like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had
Yeah,
my metal in my ears and
yeah.
just feeling
Yeah.
everything that was going on and just all the stuff that's going on in my body, in my head, all of those types of sensations. And just having that stillness to process everything that I was going through. So that was probably the first step for me. So it doesn't have to be, again, even silence, just feeling the music and just allowing your head to just go where it needs to go and your thoughts to go where it needs to go. And sometimes you just need to feel the beats of the music to just reconnect with your head and your heart and your body and all of that. And again, that's why I keep saying feeling, because it's not just about the music, it's the heaviness that's just being able to come through your body and almost transmute that anger when
Hmm.
it's so loud and so intense. And just even, 5, 10, 20 minutes of that, you feel a shift. And then
Yeah.
you're just having that stillness more frequently. You're able to then start to get those little whispers, that intuition of, okay, this is feeling good, this is not feeling good. And leaning into that more so than, again, lotus position om. Listen, yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, it doesn't, like, to your point, it doesn't have to be lotus position, it doesn't have to be traditional
right,
meditation, especially in our society where we're all staring at pieces of glass all day.
yeah,
It could be just putting that down
yeah.
and like enjoying the silence, allowing ourselves to become bored,
And
right?
that's scary. And that's where a lot of people need that distraction, that need
Hmm.
to um, run away from whatever's going on because we don't want to feel. We don't want to
Hmm.
have all of that stuff come up because
Yeah.
either it's too much, it's too like intense, or it's too scary to even like, I just
Hmm.
can't, I can't process all of this. And that's where I really lean into the music, because even back when all of this started, like I couldn't do the stillness. I was too
Mm,
much. All that stuff that I was going through was just too much for me
yeah.
to have silence. I
Yeah.
needed some type of hand holding. And, Slipknot and Manson just happened to be it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So you all heard it here. If you want to get and connect with yourself, Slipknot and Manson is the key to
Yes.
inner connection.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. I mean, I have a friend who's just a total metalhead. He's probably gonna just go and just listen to metal and meditate all day now. Um, but uh, yeah, so that is super helpful. I think you're right when the reason we're afraid of being bored is because we're with ourselves. It's not actual boredom that we're afraid of. We're afraid of the feelings and the thinking
Yeah.
and all that comes up.
And even the
Um,
darkness that comes up of like,
mhm,
oh my God, this is what's inside me. This is what I am
mhm,
or could be capable of. And having to grapple not only with the good parts of yourself, but also the darkness within yourself. And that I
mhm.
think is also something that really can scare people, especially when you are in a dark place in general. So the
Yeah.
distractions happen to be it.
Yeah. So a prerequisite to successfully, I shouldn't say successfully because there's no finish line,
Right.
but a prerequisite to doing the work of understanding who you are authentically and what your values are authentically, etc., is accepting all parts of yourself. Because if you
Yeah.
don't, there'll be a block there. And it won't just block the things you don't accept, it will block everything, right?
And we've talked about this before, like the pendulum can only be on one side for so far before it snaps back.
Mhm.
And you have to have both sides to be a whole integrated person. And that
Yeah.
means even accepting the parts of us that aren't exactly up to societal standards, aren't fit for other people to necessarily understand.
Mhm.
But it's also about finding the right people who still see you and aren't going to run away from those parts because they're like, I understand because I could do that too. I'm capable of that. And recognizing that we're all capable of everything, as scary as that is,
Mhm.
we're all human.
Yeah.
We're capable of the best and the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And that's why we can't demonize or judge others. And it's those people that do that are the ones that have that great repression and trying to
Yeah.
have that in our themselves.
Well, actually, let's talk about that. That's a really important one. Okay, so prerequisite to let's like I'm building a model here, but like a prerequisite to um, being able to connect to that inner self is that acceptance part.
Mhm.
And a prerequisite to that is being able to say that I can unconditionally love anybody
Yeah,
because like you said, we're all capable of anything. So ultimately, you have to unconditionally love humans and the human being and the human existence to do this work. And that's a lot to ask people to do because, there's some people out there that do and have in the past done really horrible things. How would you help somebody navigate that where it's like, just because I can unconditionally love all of humanity doesn't mean that I condone everything that humanity has
exactly.
done. How would you approach that for people?
I think it's also like we've had this conversation of my experience as a sex worker, and I get to see a side of humanity that 99% of the world doesn't get to see. And
Hmm.
if people only were privy to the conversations that are actually going on in people's heads, it's way more common.
Hmm.
And yes, just because you can understand where people are at doesn't mean that you're condoning it, but just
Hmm.
having that empathy of in the right circumstances, I could have done the same thing or could
Hmm.
have been the exact same way. And it's
Hmm.
having that empathy and that understanding. And even when I worked in the criminal justice system for 10 years, there I would have clients that looked horrible on paper.
Hmm.
And that's not who they were, but because of the circumstances that were in their space at that time, the just the factors that were happening, that's what happened. And it's just recognizing that that could so easily be us, and how they are could be who we are, and really just forging that understanding of acceptance and tolerance and patience and understanding. Not only because sometimes this happens too, for other people I can understand it, but for me, I have a big problem with my thoughts in this way and all of these issues, and just trying to unconditionally love yourself as well, even with the
Mhm.
dark stuff, because, especially if you're like, I could see how that could happen. Having that silence and really trusting yourself, because that's what it's really about, is having those conversations internally of that, listening to your inner whispers and listening to your guidance so that you can trust yourself, and, how your life is shaping up, that it's not necessarily that you're going to do that,
Mhm.
but again, just supporting yourself and others. And
Yeah, I mean,
it's,
you're
yeah.
not every thought that
Yes.
comes in your head. You're not
Yeah.
every impulse. You're not even the feelings, right? Like I
Right.
think that's really hard because we're not our thoughts and we're not our feelings. They're a byproduct of who we are.
Mhm.
But it's so hard to latch on to what's underneath that. So we end up identifying with those. But I want to talk more about you. You said a way to help people get better at this like acceptance piece is to recognize that that could be me. I could do that.
Yeah.
What about somebody who's in this place where they're convinced that they are inherently a bad person?
Mm.
That's probably not going to help them, right? Because they're going to be like, that, yeah, that could be me because I'm a bad person. Therefore, they're a bad person. We're all bad people. And now you're still in that place of judgment. And how would
It's
you?
flipping it. It's flipping it and recognizing, not just, oh, I could do that, but you could, like, in terms of the quote unquote bad things, but then starting to see the other side, the good things of the good in the world, and starting to identify with that. So sometimes people really struggle with there's no way I could be a murderer. There's no way I could be an arsonist, all of these things. But if you're already, I'm a horrible person, then it's flipping it. You could be a philanthropist. You
Mhm.
could be this healer to individuals and to the masses, and whatever that form looks like based on your gifts and talents. And everyone has them. It's just starting to recognize. So pivoting from just focusing on the darkness to the good, versus the person who just thinks themselves as this altruistic individual, to
Mhm.
be able to then identify that, no, you could also do these horrible things as well. Well, horrible. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, there's so much here. Give me a second. I'm
It's
processing. Yeah, you see the little loading symbol going on here. I'm
okay.
just there's so many different directions that we could take this. So okay, so where I want to take this, I want to ground this now. Like we've established that it's important to be able to connect with your feelings and
Yeah.
your intuition in order to have a compass towards your authenticity, right?
Mhm.
And then it's important to accept yourself. Otherwise, if you don't accept yourself unconditionally, you'll never find yourself because you'll put a block up to avoid the bad things, right? Or the good things. You might try to be avoid the
Exactly.
good, right? Because you
Exactly.
don't believe that you're a good person.
Exactly.
And then so therefore, and to do that, you need to be able to accept the world, all humans. But I want to talk more about the benefit, and it kind of I think it comes back to what you said at the beginning, like you're a person that values authentic connection. And it's funny, by the way, I did this values exercise and connection used to be my highest value until I realized that I don't like all connection. I only like authentic connection. So authenticity became my highest value.
Yes, yes,
So I
yes.
think we've kind of arrived at the same point. But I want to talk about like so for me, I got to authentic connection because I was like, wow, I need connection in my life and it's important. So for people who are hearing this and they're saying, okay, well, I see there's all this work I have to do to be authentic, but man, like why would I do all of that work? Like that's a lot of work and it's scary and
Yeah.
you know, and some of it threatens my masculinity,
Mhm.
right? Which it shouldn't, by the way, because
Right.
like I believe that a core component of masculinity is strength and courage, and it takes strength and courage to face the things we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you say to somebody to say why this is worth it?
I think, this is why I lived experience is great, because I was very much in my masculine. Like my teens were all about survival.
Hmm.
And we talked about this a bit offline of like, I saw my mother as very emotional and out of control. And I saw my father's stoicism as strength. And so as life happened, I started to gravitate towards that. And any
Mm.
emotion I felt, I wanted it to be anger because I thought that that was more powerful. And that
Hmm.
was my way of protecting myself.
Wow.
And so, as life happens, you sweep things under the rug for so long until, you can't avoid them anymore. And whether that's mentally, physically, and that's what was happening. I was being becoming very, very, very sick and not even able to make it through a traditional job and all these things that were just suppressed, suppressed, suppressed. And so I had to start in my 30s. I really had to look at, okay, what has happened in my life and, really uncovering the stuff because, multiple decades really amounts up.
Hmm.
And because I never wanted to be that person in her 30s who was, reading the self-help books and doing all of those things. I was like, weak, like, no,
Right.
no, never
Like
would
that's so
thought.
cliche.
I,
Yeah.
and
The eat,
so
pray, love, you're gonna go to Italy and yeah.
all those things, I completely
Yeah.
rejected it. And
Yeah.
so again, until I was forced, physically forced
Hmm.
to then reevaluate my life, what I saw was just this lightness. And who
Hmm.
I am in my 40s is very, very, very different. I couldn't even recognize the person I was in my teens or my 20s. Like I was so angry and hated the world and
Hmm.
just, life was happening to me, not for me, and all of these
Yeah.
things. And,
Mm.
when I started to have to lean into the stuff that I've experienced, the stuff that I've done, and that authentic part of all of it, you know, I became so much lighter and just healthier as a person, physically, mentally, emotionally, all the things. And
Yeah.
so it seems like this is a long road, a horrible road. And it is. But when you come out, and not that there really is a deadline or an end line, like you said, when you come out through some of the really tough stuff, I mean, yes, you get triggered. Other things happen. Like it's not like, okay, I magically crossed through the finish line. Um, but it's not as huge of a toll as it was, where it's like I have to constantly distract myself because I can't just sit. I can't be still.
Mm.
You just, everything is just so much lighter and
Yeah.
just it's like a breath of fresh air. And that sounds so woo,
Yeah.
especially like if I said that in my teens, I would have laughed
Yeah.
myself out of the room. But
Yeah.
it's really, you just feel so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would I love that. I agree. Some things I wrote down here. One I liked is like life is not happening to me, it's happening for me.
Yeah.
That's your perspective before was life was happening to me. That's a very passive way
Yep.
to live versus life is happening for me. That's a much more proactive. How do I take advantage of the abundance around me? That's super powerful. And then you talked about how we get triggered along this journey, and that's hard because it's almost like becoming a four-letter word in our society right now,
Mhm.
right? Like I don't want to be triggered. Oh, that triggered me. Trigger warning. Trigger. Trigger.
Yeah.
Trigger. but we need these triggers in order to grow. And then the last thing that resonated with me here is you talked about it being like lighter and
Yeah.
how you don't feel as weighed down. There's a phrase I picked up recently. Tell me if this resonates with you. It's not emotional baggage. It's kind of like that, but basically what happens is that drag, emotional drag.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
So not like the RuPaul kind of drag, but like
No, I
but
was
like the
picturing like weights,
physics.
with a car. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
yes,
so so I so for the is it left brain is the creative one? Is that right? Yeah, left brain
yes,
intuitive. Yeah, we'll just say for the more intuitive minded
yes.
people, your description I think is going to be really helpful. I think for like the more right brain to think about it in terms of physics, right? If you're constantly working against yourself, if there's
Yes.
parts of yourself that aren't in alignment because you're trying to force fit yourself into what society wants, it's like instead of being a sleek jet, you've got all these little parts that are sticking out
Mhm.
that don't belong there, and they're creating drag and they're slowing you down in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I talk about this a lot where it's like, before I realized that I was neurodivergent, that, I was constantly like, why can't I just, whatever, like whatever the societal standard is, like, sit and work for whatever or sit and
Just
study.
concentrate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Just
why is it always squirrel? Or, like all
yeah.
the things
Yeah.
of um why are all these things so difficult for me? And it's starting to realize who you are and how you work. So
hmm
you're working with your brain, with your body instead of
Yeah.
against it. So yes, for the right-brained people, it's not always feeling like you're hitting a wall and you're fighting with whatever it is, fighting this, whether the situation or the person or yourself. It's just smooth, easy flowing, constantly just, to the drag race analogy, not RuPaul's, but like
Yeah.
just as you're going
hmm
down the highway,
NASCAR.
guys,
Yeah.
NASCAR,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not always feeling like, there's all these barriers and stuff. It's just smooth,
Yeah.
smooth.
Yeah, and to use that analogy, I can't believe that I'm using NASCAR as I can't believe either of us are, because we're definitely not that kind of person. But it's actually fun to take analogy outside of what we normally would. But
Yeah,
like to use that analogy, those drivers, they're and you look at those cars, right? They're bare bones.
yeah.
There's no frills, there's nothing. They've been taken down to the base pieces of what makes them a sports car and nothing else because any little bit will be drag. And so I love this analogy. It's like you want to become that sports car, you want to become that race car, and you want to constantly figure out, and you have to have your pit crew too, right?
I seriously can't believe I'm even understanding this analogy because I'm like sports, yes, you need to have your support system.
Uh-huh.
And that,
Yeah.
especially as you're growing, that I wasn't always prepared for. Um, as again, like the 10 years of, being in my 30s, as that all that progressed, you're going to lose people. So
Yeah.
you're, not going to see things the way you did at one point, and people aren't going to understand you. And, even lifelong friends, lifelong family members that you were really
hmm
close to, and that's tough. But having the right supports instead of just
Yeah.
people around, because for
Yeah.
me, loneliness is when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and they just don't get it.
Yeah.
And you're trying to explain yourself, and it's just like they've got this look across their face. And you can tell they just don't understand you or what you're saying or everything. And that's when I feel like the loneliness. And
hmm
like, so to have that pit crew, that support system that really is helping you, is cheering you on, and it could be the same people, it may not be, and that's okay because you're going to attract the right people to you. What's the adage? When the student's ready, the teacher appears. You're
Yep.
going to find the right people at the right time in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing I don't like about this analogy is that it implies that life is a race.
Yeah, but you're going in a circle with NASCAR, right? Isn't it like, because
hmm
it's not a straight?
Yeah.
I know, like
Yeah.
that's both of us
So
trying to figure this
maybe the
out.
analogy is starting to break down here. Maybe we should hire a consultant. Let's get a consultant on let's loop somebody in right now. Actually, maybe we can have ChatGPT be our NASCAR consultant. But But I think it's actually it's kind of nice though when an analogy breaks down because
Yeah.
it helps you understand things a little better, right? So like why does that analogy break down?
I mean, I guess I wasn't, I was forgetting because I don't watch NASCAR that, yeah, I guess there is a winner and there's a loser in that. I was just
Yeah.
picturing because you're in a circle. And so you're
Yeah.
constantly trying to,
Yeah. Which
you
is
know,
life, right? There's
yeah. And
iteration,
so that's
iteration,
where I was going
iteration.
with that of like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, we
yeah.
got this. This is
Yep.
fine.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
We
because that
can,
part's nice. Like that's where the for me the weightlifting analogy is good. Like
yeah.
I love weightlifting, because it's you're competing against yourself and it's continuous continuous improvement. But yeah, can we talk about like the because I think a lot of times, and especially for you, you probably work with clients who see life that way. They see it as a race.
Because that's what we've been conditioned to believe. And it's not like that. And it's um, really only us and who we were yesterday that we're trying to be better than, not all the people that we're trying to compete against. Because, you know, going back to the analogy of, you know, I am capable of murder. I am capable of arson, even though I don't want to necessarily think that that's possible under the
Mhm.
right circumstances that could happen. You didn't have the same circumstances as all these other people. So why are you competing against them? For good or for bad, you didn't
Mm.
have the right circumstances that
Right.
got them where they are. That's
Yep.
not your lessons in this life. If those were
Yeah.
supposed to be your lessons, you would be those individuals. You are
Yeah.
meant to go through what you are supposed to go through. That's why
Yep.
you've been born in the environment that you have and had these types of experiences. So
Yeah.
it's only yourself,
Damn.
as hard as that is to say, because it's scary because it's like,
Yeah.
but they've got it so much better. But you don't know what my grandmother always said, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. So you don't know
Yeah.
what they're actually dealing with.
Yep. Yeah, I had that moment recently where I was talking to an old friend. We joined Amazon at the same time and uh he just finished his 25 years. If I would have stayed, I would have hit 25 years as well. I left at 22 years. And he I didn't keep my original stock from when I joined because when I was in my 20s, I invested it in a business that didn't go anywhere, and basically that cost me millions of dollars in the long run. I didn't know at the time because how could I know?
Can we
Is
talk about that for a second? Because I
Yeah.
think that this is what happens a lot of the time is people are like, oh, if I just made this decision differently, my entire life would be different.
Yeah.
And so there's all these regrets. But
Yep.
what people forget is, yeah, you're looking at it with the knowledge that you have now.
Yeah.
But what the
That's right.
knowledge and experience you had at the time,
Yep.
you made the right decision for you. And so
Yeah.
I think that we easily forget that and can really get on ourselves of like,
Yeah.
just did this, I'd be,
Hmm.
eight
Yeah,
figures.
I'm actually glad that I didn't because I would have retired at 30 and not grown the way that I grew. And so I'm talking to him and he's actually like fully retiring, and he's gonna go like travel the world and do all this stuff. And all that stuff sounded really awesome and exciting, but I didn't feel any jealousy. I didn't feel any like, if 2 years ago, a year ago, even, I would have probably felt that. I would have been like struggling to be like, I'd have to push it on myself. Like, I'm so happy for you, like,
Yes. Yes.
but I didn't because I'm like, yeah, you're you, and that's your life, and that's wonderful. And I'm me, and I'm in my life, and my life is wonderful. My situation right now is tough. I'm in a tough situation right now, but like,
Mhm.
I love me and my life, and that's what matters. Is that
Yeah.
what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. Because I think we just want to compare ourselves to um the shiny object and the perfection, and a lot of the
Mhm.
times in like bro business, bro marketing, all that stuff, they'll cite like these gorgeous mansions and
Mhm.
multitude of fast cars, and like the feminine energy doesn't resonate with that because that's not what feminine energy would do with money necessarily. Maybe, but that's not always how we're seeing things. And so there can be that disconnect. And I think that's why, especially with I call it the healing community. So whether you're trying to uplift the world in one way, shape, or form, whether that's like traditional healers or more types of coaches that are more social worky-ish type stuff, or even sex workers, because sex workers are social workers, um,
Mhm.
it's polarizing to see the traditional business model because it's not resonating with them. And so it's like, well, I want nothing to do with that. And that's why there's that breakdown a lot of the times. Of course, the nonprofit charitable sector isn't about acquiring all this mass amount of money, but you still need to be able to keep the lights on. You still need to be able to pay your employees. You still need to be able to do all of these things. And when you don't think of your work as a business because you're being polarized by all this other stuff, that's what traditional business is, that's where there's that disconnect and there's problems. It's just about who you are and what you want out of life. And that could be the fancy cars and, the mansions, and that's okay for you. Um, but that's not what everybody wants. And that's okay that you don't necessarily want that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, like, because I thought that's what I wanted, the
Yeah.
fancy cars and the mansion and all of that, and I've owned, some nice cars in my life and I have a nice house and all of that. But none of it has come remotely close to the fulfillment I get from connecting with myself and knowing myself and living in my authenticity.
Mhm.
And now that I do, I look back and I'm like, I didn't really want those things. I thought I did, but really, I was looking for, I wanted to have this sort of, I'm being very vulnerable here, but like this appearance of being successful
Yeah.
to the outside world.
Yeah. And that's what
Is,
they sell you. I mean, it can
yeah.
be something, it doesn't have to be to that extreme. It could be whatever this beauty product is that's the latest
Hmm.
on the TikTok. It's
Yeah.
what that's the whole premise behind marketing. That's what
Yeah.
it's supposed they're selling you is you're gonna have that youthful glow, you're gonna have that radiant smile, you're gonna have all these suitors at your door. And that's what you
Hmm.
want. You don't actually care about the beauty product. It's not
Hmm.
about, I mean, and sometimes it is about the mansions or the cars, but a lot of the times that's not what it's about. It's what
Hmm.
that actually is being represented
Hmm.
by all of the marketing. So, and the business culture. So,
I think what you're saying is that when you let yourself be driven by these external things, you're giving your power to the people that are trying to sell you all these things. Is that right?
yeah. And you're not being your authentic self because you're trying to fill that hole that's inside of yourself that is there. It's just you're trying
Hmm.
to fill it with all these different things or numb it.
Yeah.
And because you just don't want to feel it. And that's where the inauthenticity is perpetuated because we're not actually looking at what this hole inside of ourselves really is, for whatever reason, because we're scared, because we just don't know how, because it's easier to, fill it with all this other stuff. And yeah.
Well, and I think also we're afraid of rejection, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, again, whether it's for survival or just our egos, we want to be loved and accepted as who we really, really are. And a lot of the times when you show, you open the door and you show that little bit of vulnerability, you could be laughed at, you could be scorned, you could be rejected. And that's scary. It is. But, the amount of people that are still going to gravitate towards that, it's, for me, it's worth the risk. Um,
Mhm.
but I know that a lot of people aren't there yet. Yeah.
How do you handle rejection? What's an example recently where you had a rejection and it was hard to swallow?
Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. Um, real stuff, real talk.
Yeah, I love real stuff.
My mother hasn't accepted my pregnancy, and
Oh
that's
my
been
goodness, I'm
really, really
sorry.
tough.
Oh,
And hasn't acknowledged it, nothing.
whew.
Like that to me is like, we've always had our life stuff in life, and
Yeah.
I thought that, at least this.
Yeah.
And, the reality is that as much as I would like to be able to have conversations with her and have her a part of things, um, it would have been more of a stress. And so, really seeing both sides of things. Yes, this would be great, but at the same time, it would stress me out and it wouldn't, I'm over romanticizing the
Hmm.
relationship that I would have with her because the reality is
Yeah.
like you
Yep.
know so it's having that neutral stance
It's
on things.
acceptance.
Yeah. And it takes a while to get there. But yes.
Because if you don't have the acceptance, it starts to be emotional drag, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's hard. And yeah, you're right. Like there's the we it's something that you have to accept, and
Yeah.
you can also say, it couldn't have happened any other way. This is
Yeah.
at the same time you also can acknowledge that it's hard.
Yeah. Because, we're human and we want
Yeah.
that connection, especially from whatever parental figure that, we were rejected by.
Yeah.
And that can look very differently based on
Hmm.
each circumstance. And, you want to, you crave that and you want that so bad. And you just think, okay, well, maybe if I just do this differently, or if this circumstance is different,
Right.
and then it doesn't, and it's, yes, moving towards that acceptance and that surrender of, she's got her lessons that she needs to learn in this life, I have mine, and it is what it is. I'm finding mother figures at this time that has
Hmm.
really, really helped. And so even when you are being rejected by someone, others still come in
Mm.
that help fill that void in other
Yep.
ways. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You answered my follow-up question, which was going to be, because like
Yeah.
rejection is redirection, right? So I was
Mhm.
going to ask, like, what is it redirecting you to?
Yeah.
And these mother figures might be better equipped than your mother, even if your mother was accepting of your,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, especially when we're talking about rejection and you've wanted it for so long, whether it's from a
Mm,
partner, whether it's from a parent, whether it's from, society or whatever, and it just keeps
mm,
happening.
mm.
It's tough. It's really, really tough,
Yeah.
but there is hope. And I think that that's what the lesson is right here is, yes, other things and other people and other opportunities are going to come in. And
Hmm.
it's okay. Yes,
Yeah.
I know you still crave that, and that's okay,
Yeah.
but it's not this bleak thing. So,
We come up with these great plans, right? How we see our lives unfolding. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't go exactly to plan, right? It's like something doesn't go to plan
right.
and we have to accept it. Sometimes the thing that doesn't go to plan is easy to accept. Sometimes it's really hard to accept, right?
Mhm.
Um, as somebody who's entrepreneurial like yourself, what would you say to other people that are in business for themselves, or even they're part of a larger organization, or whatever it is that they do, that they have to make plans, right? And those plans can be really important because there's a lot of money riding on it. You have to, how do you balance that? Of I have to make plans that are so important, so critical. A lot of money's riding on it. Maybe other people's money's riding on it.
Mhm.
But I also have to be flexible enough to say, you know what, if it doesn't go to plan, I just have to accept it. Like, how do you balance those things? Because some
Everything is,
people might say,
yeah,
like, that's weak. You should not
yeah.
accept. You should keep fighting. Just keep fighting and make the plan work.
That's the
Right?
typical bro
Yeah.
culture. Yes.
Yeah.
And
But when do you know to pivot and realize, like, hey, I'm a Captain Ahab here, or like, I'm whatever it is where this is like, I need to let go, right?
everything is happening for our best and highest good. And even though it may seem absolutely horrible, and I recently said this to someone, and they very much did not receive that well. They scoffed. Um, it was not
Specifically,
everything.
they didn't receive the whole everything. Could you
Like
say that
it was,
again?
yeah, like the everything happens for our best and highest good. And then having a little bit of time and then them explaining what was really going on in their life, the deaths that they were experiencing, the fact that they had just gotten arrested, the addictions that they were facing. And when you're in these horribly dark places, you're like, how the hell is this happening for my best good? Like, why
Right.
can't I get a break? Like, are you
Mhm.
freaking kidding me? Like, it's been like this for, X amount of years, X amount of decades. Like, how is this
Yeah.
happening? And that's where going back and going inward and listening of like, well, are you doing something that you don't really want to do? Like, are you in this organization that you don't really want to be a part of? You don't like them. You're just there for the security of the paycheck, but you want to be doing something else, but you're just too, I mean, whether it's scared or just, you've got, a family to support and you're just like, well, how though is this going to work? Whatever it is, or going back to the person that I was just referring to with the arrests and all the deaths and the family or the family and the friend group and all of these stuff, like it's showing you though the importance of sobriety. It's showing you the
Mhm.
importance of what your life is going towards. And, yes, you're going to keep hitting these lessons. So, to go back to our NASCAR analogy of going in circles, if you're not avoiding the tree stump that's in the middle of the road the first time, it's going to still be there. And a
Yeah.
lot of the times though, it's going to be bigger. So if you don't learn the lesson the first time, it's going to keep coming up, but it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And
Yeah.
so it's listening to that guidance of, okay, maybe I should pivot now because clearly there's something that I'm missing.
Mhm.
And having that bravery, having that courage to really just sit and, not only hear what it is, but taking the action steps. And it doesn't mean if you're in that corporation that you hate, like that break up with them and, leave tomorrow. It's taking the other steps towards what your whispers are. So maybe that is starting a business and starting it in little ways or leaving that relationship or all of these things. It's the little things to start to move in that direction and doors are going to open. People are going to appear, opportunities are going to appear, but you've got to listen to what is actually happening, or you're going to keep hitting that tree stump that, just more and more each time. And again, life is happening for us. It's showing us who we can become and what we're meant to learn in this life.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would agree with everything you said, and then some people might say like, well,
Well,
not, they
it's so
wouldn't
easy for
openly
you
say
to
this.
say,
Yeah, yeah. Or they might not even say this openly. Internally, they might resist. They might feel this resistance because
yeah,
they've done that lap so many times. And it's like maybe the first time they hit that tree stump, if they would
right.
have said, "Oh, you know what? I need to drive around the tree stump," that was easy to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But when they've done it five, six, seven, 8 times, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes harder and harder to
It is. Yeah.
break that pattern, right?
Yeah. And that's where having some support system that is not having a hidden agenda, because sometimes when we rely on family or friends, they
Mm,
have ulterior motives. We don't
hmm
like to think that, but that is the reality at times.
hmm
And so, having some type of neutral third party, whether that is a consultant for your business, having some type of therapist, and whether that's traditional talk therapy, some type of alternative healing, some neutral third party who doesn't have the emotion tied to the situation that is able to look at things objectively and say, well, if you just went a little to the left, you wouldn't be hitting the tree stump. And it can be something super simplistic, or maybe it's a little more complex, but you don't know because, especially if you've been hitting that tree stump time and time and time again, there is so much emotion that's built up into it. And especially, because I came from the charitable sector, I attract a lot of healers as well. And when you are struggling in your business year and year and year and year, especially when it's in this space, your identity is tied to it because you know that you are meant to do so much good in this world. And then it's like,
Mhm.
why can't I figure this out? And so to have somebody just come in and look at things and say, you've been doing great work, but this is what you're not seeing. And it's okay that you haven't seen it because of all the other stuff that's going on. But just have somebody objectively look at things and just have that emotion removed, it makes all the difference sometimes in the way you see things, the way you're processing things, the way you're handling it, and you're able to actually move forward.
Yeah, and the same thing can apply to, because I was thinking when you were talking about, you know, maybe, that you see the tree stump, they tell you like, hey, maybe you should like shift left and not run into the tree stump anymore.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes it's understanding like w what's causing you to keep doing that. Like why,
Yeah.
what are you getting out of it? Because you're probably getting something out of it, right?
Or
Um,
even that you don't trust yourself enough that you have the clearance on the left
mm,
hand side to go
yeah.
that way.
Hmm.
And that's where having that neutral support can be like, no, you can shift. It's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like having a board of directors for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever had that moment where somebody outside of you said, like, hey, Tiffany, this doesn't seem authentic for you? And you're like, whoa, thank you. Like, wow.
It's not exactly, but yes, but in a bit of a
Mhm.
different way. So
Yeah.
again, I'm very masculine, I'm very much a guy. And so it's, I am not the type of person that wants to be validated in their emotions of like, if
Mm.
I'm complaining about,
Hmm.
this is what's going on, I don't want you to be like, oh, I'm sorry that that's so tough. And da, 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 da. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, what am I not seeing in this situation? What am I
Hmm.
missing? So the types of supports and friendships and, created family that I have, that's what is just naturally coming out because that's what I need. I don't need the, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah, 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 it sucks. Now tell me, what am I
Hmm.
not seeing in this
Yeah.
situation? What am I doing that I need to be doing, or what am I not doing, or all of those types of things. And so that's just an inherent standard of my relationships.
Yeah, I like how you put it, is like, it's not that you're looking for solutions. You just want to hear, like, what are you not seeing?
Yeah. And then I'll follow my intuition on, sometimes people are like, oh, well, do this. And if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. But I'm at
Hmm.
least understanding why they're saying that. You should do
Hmm.
this because of ABC, XYZ. But it's like, oh, I didn't think about, maybe X and Y. And
Hmm.
so that changes things. But if it doesn't feel right to me, I'm not going to do it,
Yeah.
but just seeing that other perspective.
That's really helpful for me to hear that, because I'm the opposite in that regard. Like, I want my emotions validated. And
Yeah.
maybe it's because of our genders, right? Especially like our assigned, we both are cisgendered, right? So growing up, you probably got a lot of that, of like,
Yeah.
validation, because we assume that's what little girls need, and but we assume little boys don't need that. We assume little boys just need to be told what to do, and not have any care for their feelings, right? And so
Mhm.
I've been lacking that, and so I crave the validation, and you've been lacking the, other thing, and you crave that, and that's
I'm like, this
interesting.
is not helpful. I never thought
Yeah,
about it like that though.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
thing that you helped me realize is that I don't I, I don't want solutions right away. Usually, because I want to drive that conversation. I want
Mm.
to feel ownership in the solutioning.
Yeah.
But being able to ask others, what am I missing here? Is there something I'm missing here?
Yeah.
That's different, right? And
Mhm.
that's really helpful, I think. I never thought about doing that.
Yeah. Just what am I not seeing? What
Hmm.
could the other person be experiencing or this other part of the situation that because I'm so emotionally tied to it that I
Hmm.
can't see the forest through the trees. So,
Yeah. And it's probably I don't know. Is it better for you to ask, what am I not seeing versus somebody just straight up telling you like you're not seeing this, or
I
does it?
think they know me well enough
Mm,
because, like, when I'm talking
mhm,
to certain people about this, they know that that's what I'm looking for. And it's not necessarily in a chastising way, but in a
mm,
supportive way. I also know the people who get frustrated of like, but this is what I told you to do and you didn't follow that advice. And
mm.
it's like that's not what I was saying. So
Yeah.
I'm talking to those types of people, but it's in a supportive way of, this is just what the other side of things could be.
Mhm.
So, and in a
That
way
makes
that
sense.
is validating your feelings of it's
Hmm.
not because specifically with my mother, this is where we would butt heads of like she just wanted that validation. She's like, why
Mm,
can't you defend everybody else? But in
mm,
my way, like for me, I am defending you because I'm showing you that it's not as extreme as you may think it is. Like these
mhm.
people aren't fully slighting you. You're just missing that, hey, they were sick that day. You forgot about that.
Yeah.
All these other things. It's not so personal. So,
I think when people do that, I think it's probably because they've bought into a certain narrative
yeah,
and they want you to buy into that narrative.
yeah,
What I'm getting from this conversation is that your process for continuously staying in your truth and your authenticity is introspecting, listening to your gut, and then externally having that sort of support group, your pit crew, your board of directors,
yeah,
whatever, being able to accept yourself as you are in a self-compassionate way, and seeing rejection as redirection.
yeah, absolutely. It is. And it's, hard. It still hurts, especially from people that you really, really want that acceptance from. But it's happening for our best and highest good so that stronger individuals to meet your actual needs, not just like that figure that
Mhm.
you're assigning all this meaning to actually be able to come and really be able to support you. So,
Yeah, and for people who struggle with the concept that this is happening for my best and highest good, I would tell them, then fine, look at it this way. It may or may not be happening for your best and highest good, but how could you make it work towards
that's,
your best and
yes.
highest good?
I like that. For people who are struggling, I think that that is a much more palatable way. I appreciate that. I'm going to use that. Yes, when I am getting resistance, it's pivoting that language
Hmm.
to, seeing it in a different way that you may not be seeing.
Yeah, and it's yeah, it's the understanding of it, because then from that follows a much different set of decisions, right?
Yeah.
Versus if I think that everything is happening for my worst possible good, then I might not go after opportunities, right? I say, why would I bother? Because they're
Yep.
just going to ruin me.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. So one last question I'd like to ask is, you're on this journey and you've made so much progress through your life. 10 years from now, if you were to be able to go into the future 10 years from now, just pop in and send yourself a message to make sure that you're staying on this path, what would you tell yourself?
I've thought about this many, many times, but in different ways of more like from here, looking back, and
Hmm.
um, everything's going to be okay. I think it's really just everything's going to be okay. And, that sounds like, hard of like, okay, well, how do you make sure that you're still being authentic? And I think because a lot of the times it's, if you're super stressed with like, let's say business, and it's like, okay, well, I could do something that doesn't feel as authentic to me because I'm just stressed right now. And, aligning with a client that I know isn't for my best good, or like it's going to be stressed or things like that. And just empowering, like, everything's going to be okay. Just stay that course. Everything's going to be okay. So you don't have to do these things that you think that you need to because you're stressed in the moment. Everything's going to be okay. And like having that bigger picture, then, because I think that we can get so caught up in the weeds, but
Yeah.
having the bigger picture really helps to stay on that authentic path.
Yeah. I think uh, you're saying everything's gonna be okay so that you can slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. And not like make the rash decisions
Hmm.
because you feel like you have to in
Yeah.
this moment, that there's no other options, but
Yeah.
everything's going to be okay. There are other options.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Until there isn't, and then you're dead. And so it's like,
That's a different podcast episode.
yeah, yep, yeah. But death is very much a defining factor of our existence. But yeah, that is definitely
Mhm.
another episode. Um, yes, everything is going to be okay. That's a great way to end this. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for this conversation. I learned so much, and it was so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
And where can people find you to connect with you?
I'm going to send you all those links so that people have all the socials and the websites and all this stuff
Awesome.
of seeing that.
We'll put it all, just look in the description and you'll see how
Yes.
you can connect with Tiffany.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Tiffany, for joining me today, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye.